Today we're going to be talking about the Nikon Z6 and how to work with manual lenses. Are manual lenses useless? This is the 50mm 1.8D. The D is very important. Now, if you have the G lens, the G lenses work perfectly if you have the FTZ adapter. But the D lenses, like this one, my favorite lens, does not work with the Z6. My previous DSLR, the Nikon D750, works with a D lens. So does the D7100. Now, those have a motor inside of the camera. They don't need a motor inside the lens. The G lenses, you'll notice they're different. See, this is like a white font. So the G lenses will say G, obviously, but it sort of has like a gold font too. They have a built-in motor in the lens. So that means they can focus by themselves. They don't need an in-body motor. So the Z6 specifically doesn't have that, so it needs lenses to have their own motors. This is my favorite lens, the 85 1.8, and this is on my camera probably at least 85% of the time. And I was really sad that this wasn't going to work with my Z camera, and I was almost going to retire it and invest and try to get a new one eventually. But I found a few little tricks or hacks to use with a mirrorless camera that made it a lot easier to use a manual lens. Well, now it's a manual lens. So in this video, we're going to talk about how to use manual lenses on the Z6. So number one is obvious. When you're taking a picture, you see a little square. It's red, and then when it's in focus, it becomes green. That tells you it's in focus. But that's not good enough. It's like you know that it's green, but is it really in focus? So you need to check. You need to pixel peep. You need to look at the picture, zoom in 100% to see if it's in focus, which gave me an idea. Like, why don't I just zoom to 100% when I'm taking the picture? So what I did is one of the buttons on the front, or you could even do the buttons on the back, make it to zoom to 100%. So when you're focusing with the manual lens, you press that button and you see the picture at 100%. So then you know for sure it's in focus. And this gave me so much peace of mind. And then the third way is the coolest way ever. And this is called peaking highlights. And it shows the entirety of the focus plane. So for example, if this hand was in focus, we don't know if this hand is in focus or not because it's moving back and forth, right? If I put my hand here, you see it's not focusing, right? I'm going back and forward, it's not focusing because that's not where I told it to focus. So we don't know where the plane of focus is, okay? It's supposed to be right here, okay? But let's say if I put my hand down here, like, is this out of focus? Is this out of focus? Like, we don't know exactly where the plane, like imagine like a line, big window, a big glass, a big sheet of glass. That's the plane of focus. So we're moving it forward and backward, the plane of focus. So this peaking highlights, what it does is it shows the entirety of what's in focus in the plane of focus, right? So you would see this and you would see an outline of blue, okay? And then if I put my hand here, I would move it back and forward and it would show you like, bam, now it's in focus. So now we can see the entirety of what's in focus, which makes it really cool because the little green box that we usually get, it just say like you're taking a picture of someone's face. It will say like, oh, the eye is in focus, but we don't know if like the mouth or nose is in focus. It could be almost in focus, but we don't know. So maybe we'll switch from f1.4 to f4, let's say, to make sure it's all in focus. But now with this blue peaking highlight thing, now we can see the eyes are in focus, the lips are in focus, and the nose is in focus, which is really cool. Okay, so we're gonna show you how that's done right now. All right, we're gonna go over the 3 different methods. So method 1, you see right in front of you, it's this red square. So just by moving this left and right, turning the dial, we're able to eventually and miraculously get that red square to somehow turn green, hopefully. Oh, you saw it for a second there. Right there, right. It's very finicky, as you can see. But eventually, bam. Okay, we got it in focus. The problem with this method is we don't know which way to turn the dial. Left, right, in or out. Well, the good news is you get something else to help us electronically. But how do I know which way to go? We're not only seeing this red-green square, but if you look right down here in the corner near the battery icon, you see little triangles. Left or right, too far or too close, the triangle will point the other way. If you do it just right, a circle will appear in the middle instead of the triangles. So it goes triangle, circle, triangle. A triangle pointing left and a triangle pointing right. And that's how you're able to judge which direction to move the manual focus ring. This is all fine and good for product photography like this, but when somebody's moving, like an actual person, this is really hard to pull off. Which brings us to method 2. So method 2 is the same thing, but what we're going to do is we're going to bind one of the buttons right here to give us 100% view, magnification. And this lets us see what we're doing, which makes it so much easier. Look, that's in focus. Come back here. It's really hard to tell what's in focus and what's not. I mean, the green box helps us, but it's hard to get to that point. But here at 100% magnification, you can go all over the place and you bring it back to focus so much faster than before. And as you may have noticed, if you look down here, you'll see that little circle and the little triangles on the side. So the triangles will tell you you're out of focus and the circle will tell you you're in focus. So this is kind of like combining the previous methods. We're using the triangle method and we get 100% zoom. So how do we do this? There's 2 ways to do it, okay? So the first way is obviously pressing these zooming in buttons until we're at 100%. But that is really annoying. When this is up to your eyeball, it's hard to tell where these buttons are. So we have to bind a whole new button. So we're going to go into controls and we're going to go F2. Custom control assignments. And right here, we're going to use AF on, and we're going to set it into zoom on off, and then 1:1 at 100%. You can choose to go 50% or 200%. I just prefer 1:1 as it's supposed to be. So now that we have this button at 100%, whenever you press this button right here, it gets you to 100%. But the nice thing is, we can move the red box all over. And then when you press that button, it goes right into that box, okay? Isn't that fun? So while it's up to your eye, if you press this button, you get 100%. Now this is when it's up to your eye, not just the screen in the back. So that was number 1 and number 2, okay? The third one is the coolest way ever, and it's so high tech. We gotta go into D, shooting display, and 10, D10, peaking highlights. And we're gonna turn it on to 3, high sensitivity, and you could pick their color. We'll just go with blue. Okay, when you're out of focus, it looks like a normal picture, but when you go in focus, look at this. Everything that's in the focus plane is blue. How cool is that? This is what I was talking about before. Okay, so the red-green tells us in focus, but we don't know if this side is in focus. So imagine if this is a person and this is their eyeball in focus. We don't know if their other eye is in focus, but this blue tells us that this is in focus, but this is also in focus. It shows us the entire focus plane, which is so cool. And the best part about this is you could combine it with the other methods, so you could zoom in 100%. It's a lot harder to see because the blue line is thinner, but it's there. It's definitely there. And like I said before, you can change the colors. So you can go to yellow if you want. So the focus plane is yellow, or you could change it to, let's say, red. I don't know if I like that one. Ooh, that's scary. It looks evil, an evil plant. But yeah, isn't that cool? So don't be afraid to use manual lenses to focus because we have a lot of electronic help nowadays. So thank you, Z System, for making my life easier and I don't have to throw out this lens. Isn't that awesome? Why is he not in the center of the frame? Well, that's because it's time for our wrap up. So there's 3 different ways to use manual lenses on the Z system. Number 1, use that little red square. Red square turns green square, you're in focus. Number 2, bind 100% zoom button, okay? You just want a button to press one time that will give you 100% zoom. This will make it a lot easier to see if something is in focus. Plus, you could use our red square method, which also comes with that little triangle circle method, okay? And then number 3, the coolest method is the peaking highlight method, okay? I think when you combine all 3 methods, you'll see that manual lenses are not that scary, which is going to be a lot less scary for your wallet because these things are a lot cheaper than G lenses and half price of Z lenses, sometimes even a quarter of price. So now you know how these lenses work on the Z system. If you like this video, give it a like. Don't bother subscribing because you probably just searched for this because you were having trouble. If you want to see creative content, you could go visit my other videos, but I won't be offended if you don't subscribe. So go back to your YouTube viewing experience. And I'm out of here. And PS, this lens right here is the Sigma 1.4 art lens. So the Sigma art lenses do work with the Z system, and they work so good. Wow. That's just so satisfying to do. And for today's makeup palette, we got some, look how fast that is. Doo-doo-doo. I'm sorry, it's addictive. Okay, I'm done.